Hi, everyone. Welcome to this next session of our conference, Engaging Families for College and Career Readiness session. This session is being recorded, and we will post the recording along with the PowerPoint presentation to the conference website later today. I want to welcome you. My name is Sam Nelson. I work with the Illinois Student Assistance Commission, one of our network organizers. And we're really excited to have our colleagues from Act Now here today to talk about all the incredible work they do to help engage with students and their families and getting folks, besides just the people in a classroom, engaging with students about college and career readiness. So as that one book says, it takes a village. So with that, I think that's all my introductory comments. I'll turn it over to Lesley and Emma, and they will go ahead and get us started. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sam. As Lesley is pulling up our slide deck, I just wanted to welcome everybody into the space. We're really excited to be here. You're going to learn a little bit more about us and about Act Now and what all we do in the out-of-school time, after-school youth development space. And just really excited to engage you all here today. So we are hosting the Engaging Families for College and Career Readiness session. We're going to then kind of move into our agenda and do a little bit of level setting for what to expect here today. So we'll participate in some welcoming and introductions. I will quickly run through who Act Now is, what we are, what we do in this space. We'll define family engagement as we see it within the out-of-school time field, as well as defining college and career readiness as well. Then we're going to move on to creating a family engagement plan. We have a lot of resources, tips and tricks, and a framework to follow along with. We will then engage in a breakout activity. Lesley and I have some fun scenarios for us all to dive into, and then we will close out with final thoughts and a link to provide you with an evaluation. So we have a full pack session here. We're really excited, and I think we can go ahead and get started. So we're going to share a little bit about who we are and what we do. My name is Emma Vibber. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Quality and Professional Development Manager at Act Now. I'm going to pass it on over to my buddy Lesley to introduce herself as well.
Thanks, Emma. Hi, everyone. My name is Lesley Chapman. I also use she, her pronouns, and I am the program coordinator here at Act Now.
Awesome. And so if you aren't already familiar, who is Act Now? What do we do? Act Now, or After School for Children and Teens Now, we are a statewide after-school coalition. There's actually a counterpart to us in all 50 states that work to ensure that youth have access to high quality and affordable out-of-school time, youth development, and community school programs. Some of the ways we engage in that work is through policy and advocacy. So we want to ensure that legislators and policymakers know the importance and value of after school, and that they vote and understand and are educated appropriately. We then, once programs are funded and we are, working towards that continuous quality improvement, we want to make sure that they feel supported. And we do a lot of that support through professional development, whether it's engaging providers with STEM, SEL, quality initiatives, and most appropriately for today, family engagement and college and career readiness. Some of our constituents, if you will, are providers like after school program providers. We also have a lot of school day teachers and educators, policymakers, state agencies, community activists and advocates, and the list goes on. So if you are at all interested in learning more about us or participating in our membership, please feel free to sign up for our newsletter. Lesley just put it into the chat box. Our newsletter comes out weekly. It's chock full of policy updates, funding opportunities, professional development opportunities, job opportunities, and the list goes on. So please feel free to check that out. So now that we've done a little bit of level setting as to who we are, what we do, and why we're here, I think it's really important for you all to understand our family engagement policy and philosophy, if you will. And so we define family engagement as the process by which after-school and summer programs build meaningful, impactful, lasting relationships with families to support them and their children. Family engagement, by definition, is inherently diverse and equity rooted. We want to ensure that all types of families, all types of youth and parents and caregivers and loved ones are able to show up in a space that feels comfortable for them, that they feel as though they can engage with their child's long-term learning opportunity. We're going to definitely sink more into this definition and walk through a framework in the next couple of slides, but just really wanted to provide an overall definition here. The next definition and philosophy that we want to have folks subscribe to is this idea of college and career readiness and the relationship that has with after school or youth development programs. After school is an amazing place for youth of all ages, whether they are 5 or 15, start to think about college, start to think about identifying a career and what life looks like for them beyond the school day. You know, across the United States, especially in Illinois, we know that teachers, educators, parents, families, even youth themselves want their families to be engaged in college and career readiness. That's going to look like a variety of different things and take shapes and take kind of unique lenses and perspectives based off of each individual and unique student. But after school is a really incredible time to start to engage some of those conversations and engage in those experiences with families, educators, and youth. We have an amazing toolkit. The cover of that toolkit is up on the screen there. We will drop the link to that toolkit in the chat, but it's also an amazing resource to see how you could start to integrate college and career readiness into programming, depending on the school age of the child, whether it's elementary, middle, high school, and it's chock full of awesome resources. And so just wanted to kind of plug that as well. But I hope what you take away from this conversation today is that after school is really uniquely positioned to kind of help harness and harbor these conversations. And I'm excited to be able to show you all of the different ways in which we could do that. And so before we dive into the framework, I just want to reiterate the connection that family engagement has to college and career readiness based off of what the research says. And so we all know or probably very acutely aware that families and parents want their children to succeed. Families want and need to understand what college and career readiness might look like for their family and for their child. Teachers and administrators want to involve parents and families and community members. But there might be some hesitancy, right? There might be some hesitancy around college as a 4-year institution only, college as a post-secondary opportunity or trade institution, or this idea of parents and families being engaged in out of school time, perhaps because they're not necessarily super comfortable being in that kind of learning environment themselves. So we know based off of the research that there are a lot of variables that go into play when parents and families are accessed and try to kind of welcomed into their child's learning environment and learning opportunity. This is regardless of race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, educational status, place of origin, immigration status, and so on. We know that what the research is telling us and what the research states is that all parents and families want access and knowledge to ensure that their child succeeds. And success in college or post-secondary opportunities is going to look different for each individual child. And so to continue to have that lens and that perspective is really important, which then leads me to our next slide and this kind of foundational tenet that I want us to all really sink into today. College and career readiness is a feature of family engagement, but equity is a foundation, right? I want to kind of say that one more time. College and career readiness is a feature of family engagement, but equity is a foundation. And now we are going to address how that takes place. And I'm going to pass it on over to my friend Lesley to walk us through the how.
Thank you so much, Emma. So now that we've highlighted what college and career readiness is and what family engagement is and why they are important, let's talk about how you actually make those things happen for your youth. The first thing to keep in mind is that college and career readiness happens at all ages. Topics and careers that youth are exposed to in elementary school, as well as the expectations you set up for them, can have a drastic impact on what they choose to pursue later in life. In addition, make sure that equity is the foundation throughout your college and career readiness and family engagement planning. We're going to keep stressing this because it's a really important feature. A great example of both of these points is to look at STEM careers. For years, women and people of color have been underrepresented in STEM-focused paths, both in college and beyond. So by specifically targeting those groups in after-school STEM programming in elementary school, you can expose them to those sorts of possibilities in their lives. In order to engage your families at all age levels, you need to have a formal family engagement plan. By having this family engagement plan, you're going to ensure that you have consistent and authentic engagement. I also want to address from the beginning the importance of including families' input into the creation of your plan. As the stakeholders for this plan, that this plan impacts the most, it's crucial to include their voice. I'm going to try and highlight some different areas specifically where you should look for family feedback and input. So the next part of our presentation will outline the specific steps for you to create or refine your family engagement plan. The first thing we encourage you to do is to identify what are your and your staff's core beliefs about family engagement. These often come from people's personal experiences with families and their individual beliefs and philosophies about the work. So for example, I'm a former youth theater teacher, and my students' families loved coming to performances and seeing the growth they're experienced in my classes. They loved seeing them come out of their shell, practice their public speaking, have a stronger sense of their identity, all of those things. So a core belief that I hold is that all families wish to witness and experience their child's educational successes. Emma, I'm wondering if you can share with us a core belief about family engagement that you hold.
Absolutely. A core belief about family engagement that I hold is family engagement needs to be inherently integrated and systematized through an agency. So whether you are a community-based organization, a nonprofit institution, a school district, family engagement needs to be integrated into everyone's role and responsibility. It shouldn't just be the burden, if you will, of only one person at that agency or institution. Rather, everyone should have equal stake, role, and responsibility for implementing high quality family engagement. It not only tells us what is best practice and what the research says deems or determines most high quality family engagement, but it really helps the agency or institution buy in and navigate needing to systematize family engagement throughout.
Thanks for sharing, Emma. Really appreciate it. So obviously these are just a couple of examples, and your team will bring new and other interesting ideas to this discussion. So then once you take those core beliefs into consideration, think about what makes ideal high quality family engagement practices. For example, ensuring that all families feel welcome and included, or making sure that you have an easy for families to provide you with input and feedback. Using these discussions with your staff and team members, the next step is to draft a formal family engagement vision statement. This statement will be your compass and will sort of guide creation and implementation of your formalized family engagement goals and plans. It should also take into consideration the core beliefs and high quality practices that your team previously discussed. So as you can see up on the screen now, we have a sample vision and statement. I'm going to read it out loud for us. All families of students participating in ABC Cares programs feel like partners in their child's growth and development, feel included in our organization's work, and feel welcome as a member of the ABC Cares community. So already, if you tease that out a little bit, you can get a sense of what this organization holds as core beliefs and high quality practices. Okay, so let's practice a little bit. Eventually, you will have these discussions and set these goals as a group with your whole team. But for now, and to get you started, think about what is a core belief that you hold about family engagement. And if you could share it in the chat with us. I'll give us a moment to do this. One more time, in the chat, core belief that you hold about family engagement. And these ideas are just to get us thinking. Anything that you put in could be helpful for other people to start thinking and maybe give them some ideas to take back with their team. All right, I see a few already in the chat. Families need opportunities to connect with student learning. Yeah. Parents are critical and equal partners in the education of their child. I like that you put them on the same level. That's absolutely important. Meet parents, caring adults where they are at. Yeah, that's a really good point, Sam. And we'll talk a little bit about that, especially in the communication part of this. Family engagement empowers parents, absolutely. It takes a village. Yeah, were you here when Sam said that earlier? Because yeah, it absolutely does. Students are more successful when the family is involved in their learning process. Yep, the research unequivocally shows us that. Family engagement is a lifelong process. Family engagement allows for the people that strongly support the child to be involved in their education even more. Yeah, that's something else we like to highlight. It's not just mom and dad or moms and dads. It's everyone who is involved in life and wants to participate. Ooh, trust. Yeah, absolutely. If the families don't trust you, you're not really going to have a successful plan or engagement, right? Great. Thank you so much for sharing those. Next, it's important to do a temperature check of the things your program is already doing to engage families. So some of these things might be formalized in an existing family engagement plan that you have, and some of them might be occurring naturally without you even realizing that it's considered engagement. So let's think about the efforts you are already doing. And I have some listed here. What are your communications with families? Do you send out emails, newsletters? Do you have face-to-face, social media, etc.? Have you hosted some family-focused events such as performances, family nights, fundraisers, or info sessions? Do you have an existing family engagement plan? What kind of feedback is your staff hearing directly from families about your programs? And what, if any, resources are you sharing out to families? All of these things are things you might already be doing and are considered engagement in one form or another. All right, so we have another little opportunity to practice here. You'll see on the slide the cover of our Family Engagement Toolkit, and it can be accessed on our website. I'll go ahead and drop the link in the chat here for us. This toolkit has a bunch of additional resources and tips on creating family engagement, specifically after school environment. But I think there are tips that a lot of different organizations can use. For an example, on page 27, there's a brainstorming tool that we encourage you to do with your staff as a whole. And already we're kind of doing little samples of those. The listing of core belief is on there. I'm going to do another example here when I launch this poll. And I want you to, when I launch the poll, to select 3 ways that you are already engaging families. So I'll go ahead and you should see it up on your screen here. Multiple choice, you should be able to select multiple ones. So select what are the 3 ways that you already engage families. And I'll give us about 45 seconds to answer this. Seeing the results come in, we've got about 50% participation. I'll give everyone 10 more seconds to answer 3 ways that you're already engaging families. And closing the poll in 3, 2, 1. Awesome. So I'll go ahead and share these results. I'm really happy to see that sharing community resources has so much response. That's wonderful. That's excellent. And especially for college and career readiness, that's a crucial one, making sure that you know what are the resources in their communities that they can access. I'm also seeing digital communication, which is great, some family-focused events, inviting families into programming. They love to actually see what you're doing, all that sort of thing. So great. Thank you so much. Okay, so you've had some great discussions with your staff. You've written an excellent vision statement. It's time to set some goals. Now, we recommend breaking it up into short-term and long-term goals. Short-term goals should be easily achievable in the next year. What is the low-hanging fruit here for you and your team? They should also be things that you can do or identify immediately. Long-term goals should address where you want your family engagement to grow. And they are a way of more formalizing and systematizing your family engagement plan beyond your personal tenure. So that if you leave your post next week, next month, next year, whatever, these goals will remain. This process of systematizing is an important equity component because it ensures that these high quality practices and standards are attached to your organization and not necessarily attached to a specific person. Both sets of goals should be written with the vision statement in mind. So a few examples of short-term goals might include increasing turnout at an event or sending families a list of community resources. Some long-term goals could include creating a family engagement advisory board. That's another great way to get direct input from your families. Or hosting an ongoing series of events that prepare families for applying to college. Now, after all these discussions and goal settings, it's time to begin drafting your formal family engagement plan. Something that you will want to continuously consider diverse backgrounds and unique needs of the families in your community. No 2 organizations' plans will look the same because no 2 communities look exactly the same. Diversity, as we all probably know, is a pretty broad term that encompasses the countless unique characteristics found in individuals and groups. It can include, among other things, one's race, ethnicity, language, age, gender identity, sexual orientation, socioeconomic background, neurodivergence, physical ability, and religion. So be sure to keep in mind as you're creating this plan, what are the diverse needs of your community? Your family engagement plan will have 4 main pillars, and you can see those up here on the graphic. Those are communication, curriculum, community connections, and continuous sustainability efforts. So let's dive into each of these individually. Communication. Now, communication should be an exchange of information that flows in both directions, not like this picture in which someone is just yelling information at someone else. That's not communication, that's just yelling. Communication can happen both individually, communication can happen on the individual level, both digitally through text or calling, emails, or virtual meetings. And it can also happen in person through greetings at pickup and at drop-off. Communication also happens on the group level through the creation and engagement of social media accounts such as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or in the creation of a regular newsletter. The important thing with communication is to tailor your strategy to fit the needs of your families and the capacity of your staff. For example, individually calling or texting families takes a lot more effort and time than just ensuring a staff member greets families at drop-off. Maintaining social media accounts and developing a newsletter would fall somewhere in between. Another important thing to remember with communication is that everyone is busy, so you want to make it easy. Specifically, when you are communicating with families, make your communications accessible and concise. The message should be delivered in a way that they can easily access. It should also be something that they can digest and get the most important information out of quickly. Also, keep in mind, how do families want to be communicated with? Some communities might prefer more direct or in-person methods, while others might prefer group or digital messages. Figure out what works best for your families and your staff. Probably the best way to do this is by asking them. Finally, be sure that you are using an equity lens. Use equitable phrasing in all of your communications and communicate in the family's preferred language. Now, for some communities, this might mean using the services of a translator. We've created a digital family engagement tracker to help you organize your communication efforts. And the link to download it will be on the PDF of this slide deck, but it's also in the family linked earlier. All right, the next pillar I'm going to highlight is curriculum. Your family engagement curriculum includes all of the planned events, activities, and that will be geared towards your families. Life in the pandemic has permanently altered the way events are coordinated and experienced. So it's important to keep in mind options for both in-person and virtual family engagement events. For either option, ensure that these opportunities are relevant, informative to the needs of your community. Again, if you're not sure what that means, ask them, get some of that. And make sure they're fun to attend. People only want to show up to things if they're fun. In order to have continuous family engagement curriculum, you should also vary their occurrences. So for example, plan some like one-time ad hoc events, but then also have weekly or monthly reoccurring opportunities. So as you can see up here, we've broken down family engagement curriculum into 3 categories: social, skill development, and identity focused. Social events are opportunities for families to casually interact with each other, their youth, and their staff. They can include drop-in hours where families have the chance to come in and experience programmatic activities, family fun nights, or weekly coffee chats. Skill development events are intentional, informative opportunities for families to learn about and practice new skills. They can include how-to presentations or specific support in times of transition. For example, when you're applying for post-secondary opportunities or going from elementary to middle school. So this is a great opportunity to highlight that college and career readiness. That's an area that families usually need a lot of support in. These can be especially helpful when you're targeting, I just said this, college and career readiness for various ages. I'm going to say it again because it's really important. The last category, identity-focused events, provides a dedicated space for families that relate to a specific identity. So for example, affinity groups for those families or their youth with similar characteristics and backgrounds, or specific holiday and cultural celebrations. All right, let's practice again. So in the chat, I want you to jot down just real quick off the top of your head, one virtual and one in-person potential event for any of those three categories I mentioned. So just as a reminder, they were social, skill development, and identity focused. Keep in mind, what are the diverse needs of your specific community? And bonus points if they are themed around college and career readiness. So I'll give us about a minute to do this. In the chat, you're thinking of one virtual and one in-person potential event for any category: social, skill development, and identity focused. I see already someone shared career fair. That's a great idea. I think career fair could probably be virtual or in person. College fair too, yeah, that's a great thing to pair with your career fair. As we know, four-year college is not the only option after you graduate from high school. I see a skill event, how to find money for college. Yeah, that is a great one to do. I think it's also important to do for families that are undocumented because a lot of those traditional avenues are not available to them. So finding ways to include them in that conversation. College 101 webinar, it could be in person too. Career fairs, FAFSA night, community resource summit, all good ideas. We hear a lot, especially about FAFSA from first generation college attendees. It can be a real struggle for them because they've never had to do it before and their parents might not even speak the language that the application is written in. Financial literacy and wellness, another FAFSA information and completion. Yeah. Yep, Ziggy and I are on the exact same wavelength. STEAM night. Yes, I love a STEAM night. As a former arts teacher, I think it's crucial to incorporate the arts into our science, technology, engineering, and math programming. Great, feel free to keep putting those in the chat. I'm going to move on to our next pillar, community connections. So connecting your families with community organizations allows them to build knowledge, skills, and access available resources. If those connections already exist, great. Be sure to find an appropriate, easy to access way to share those resources with your families. If those connections don't exist, it's time to start building relationships with community organizations. For college and career readiness, think specifically about connections you can make with local colleges or universities, trade preparation programs, or organizations that have employment opportunities for teens. The Colorado Education Initiative outlines 5 tips for creating lasting and impactful community partnerships that I just want to briefly highlight here. The first is common purpose. Make sure you find partners that have a similar vision and goals as yours. Number 2, complementary content. Look for organizations that have expertise in areas that complement the skills of your staff and are of interest to your families. 3, communication. This is a common theme. Consistent communication is the key to building effective partnerships and lasting relationships, both with your families and your community partners. 4 is customized partnerships. Be sure to discuss the diverse backgrounds, identities, and needs of your families with your potential partners. And 5 is continuous improvement and sustainability. Just like with your family engagement plan, and I'm going to highlight this pillar next, you want to continuously evaluate the effectiveness of your community partnerships and then adjust them as necessary. There are some additional resources for building community connections that can be found in the Act Now Family Engagement Toolkit. All right, our final pillar is continuous sustainability efforts. Sustained family engagement is a cyclical process that will require continuous evaluation and assessment. So after you've had discussions with your team, you then draft a plan, create a timeline for implementation, and then make the necessary adjustments based on what you've learned before starting the whole cycle over again. Now, throughout your process, it's important for you to have a method for evaluation of your plan. Collect feedback from both your families and your staff at every stage, at every event, at every opportunity. The families, once again, are the ones who are being impacted the most by this plan and your work. So it's crucial to include their voice and their input into the process. Make sure you find some time to evaluate that feedback from your staff and families, and then make the necessary adjustments to your plan. The sustainability of your plan will be dependent on this continuous assessment, evaluation, and adjustment, as you are always looking for new ways to improve your efforts. Okay, that was a lot. We are now going to dive into a little bit more of an activity, and I'm going to pass it over to Emma to explain how this is going to work.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lesley. So many rich nuggets of information and experience. I'm really excited to kind of dive into this activity and think a little bit more tangibly. So this activity, we are going to split into two breakout groups. One will be with me and one will be with Lesley. And we are going to read 3 scenarios about college and career readiness at varying school age levels. So we're going to read a scenario about elementary school students, middle school students, and high school students. We're going to answer a couple of questions and really try to discuss tangible next steps, tangible reasons why we are engaging with this group. We're going to have about 2 to 3 minutes on each scenario, and then we'll come back together as a large group to debrief. Please, if you feel comfortable, put yourself on camera, take yourself off of mute. We'd love to see you. This is an activity in which we are all excited to really engage with one another and see what we can glean from these scenarios. So without further ado, my friend Lesley and I are going to start breaking folks out into rooms, and we will start the activity. See you all there. So many good conversations, Lesley. What a great activity. I am so excited to share out. And yeah, excited to kind of dive in and debrief. To not take all the airtime, I'd love it to pass it over to my colleague Lesley to kind of debrief what her group had shared, although my group had some really great conversations.
Thanks, Emma. Yeah, our group had a lot of great ideas specific to each scenario. And throughout, I was really impressed with how everyone kept an equity lens and thought about the different ways that we can make all of these things accessible to as many people as possible. So if anyone in our group wants to share out either in the chat or by taking yourself off mute, some of the things that you gain from that, I want to give you that opportunity. Jasmine was in our group and she did say in the chat, it was a nice conversation, nice to hear from different perspectives and insights. My group was a little quiet, so I'm not surprised they're feeling a little shy, and that is totally okay. I think throughout, everyone kept bringing the parents back into the process. That was something that was pretty consistent. Another consistent thing was that right from the get-go, right from elementary school, there was an awareness of how things that we expose those students to is going to impact every decision that they make after that. So, you know, people kept making the reference that they're sponges. They're constantly absorbing things. So as long as we put these opportunities in front of them and share these things with them, then they will be able to be aware of some of those other opportunities and possibilities. Emma, I'll go ahead and pass it over to you to share some about your group.
Amazing. I know, I'm like chomping at the bit. We talked about so many great things. Starting at the elementary school age, you know, kids that young, they can't conceptualize it if they can't see it, right? They need to be able to have that sort of tangible, hands-on, minds-on experience. We talked about, bringing in opportunities, whether it's a family night or, engaging with the solar system and the galaxy by having like a starry under the stars night or what have you. Any of those experiences or moments need to be developmentally appropriate and appealing, right? That's how we really start to engage. We then kind of moved on to this idea that, college isn't just a 4-year institution or university, right? Kind of reducing and removing this stigma that any sort of post-secondary experience that gets you in the door of a career that you love and that you want to be a part of and that you feel valued and confident in is something that we should try to harness and work with parents and families to foster within our programs. And finally, that last scenario really resonated with my group. There is a lot of experiencing going around where we're trying to not necessarily call out parents and families, but really call them in and welcome them into the space and help kind of pick their brain a bit about, what college and career readiness would look like for their youth, whether, there's language barriers or student and financial aid barriers or documentation barriers, right? So trying to figure that out really tangibly. If anyone has any resources, tips, or tricks to engage college or high school students for college and post-secondary opportunities, as well as their parents and families, I know a lot of folks on this call would be really eager and interested to find out more as well. But again, had a really robust conversation and really pleased with everybody's responses and knowledge of what to do for each of these school age youth demographics.
Great, so we have just a few minutes left. So we want to open it up in case anyone has any questions that they want to ask of us, and feel free to put them in the chat. You can take yourself off mute. I know we just got out of these small breakout rooms and had these opportunities, so we might have already answered everything and you're ready to go off and have really amazing, engaging family experiences with your students. And that's awesome. I'll give just a minute in case anyone has something that they want to ask. Yeah, Brenda.
Hi, the question I want to ask is, I've noticed that there's so many different definitions of college and career readiness, depending upon the organization. For instance, the ACT organization, the SAT people, they have their definition. So I'm wondering, what is your definition of how you define college and career readiness?
I think for us, we define college and career readiness as an opportunity to engage all students of all ages, of all backgrounds, in a fun and safe learning environment that extends beyond the school day. Sometimes the school day feels a little bit punitive or compliant. We feel, sometimes students feel as though it's just about checking boxes and taking tests. In out of school time, we're really allowed to engage and explore a variety of topics and a variety of college and post-secondary career experiences and engagements. And so we know that some students by learning hands-on and minds-on, whether they're 6 or 16 or what have you, that really helps to engage them beyond maybe a career aptitude test or beyond maybe a conversation with a guidance counselor. And so we really value those other youth development engagements and opportunities to help prepare students for the real world, so to speak, and that career pipeline.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to let Lesley close us out, and I'm going to put the evaluation in the chat. But if folks need to hop off, please don't forget to click on the link or use your phone and your camera to click on the QR code. We're really interested and eager to hear your thoughts on today's session. But while I'm doing that, I'm going to throw it on over to my pal Lesley to close us out.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much to all of you for coming and attending today. Thank you to the Illinois Education and Career Success Network. I double checked the new name today because I wanted to make sure I got it right. And thank you so much to my colleague Emma for helping me present here today. There's the evaluation link. Please, please, please fill that out. That's really helpful for us to know how this session went and how we can better structure in the future. And we look forward to hearing from you soon. I'll pass it over to Sam in case there are any final housekeeping things that you want to cover.
No, other than, again, thank you, Emma and Lesley, both. Again, always great information and a lot of energy you bring to these presentations on such a very important topic.